I am excited. Okay, so we're at the round table, Mr. Eric Edwam and Mr. Patrick Thompson. Big man, welcome to my studios.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Charlie, it's good to see you. I mean, it looks like one of those Friday mornings, very wet, and we'll see how it goes. The conversation itself should bring to mind some of the challenges that we're facing. Navigating a journey to home ownership in Ghana, challenges, opportunities, and practical solutions. Let's start with a general idea. What is the state of home ownership in Ghana as it stands today, before we even start the whole conversation? What is the state of home ownership? Guy finishes university, he wants to own a home in whatever number of years is set up. What is he going to go through?
Thank you very much, Jerry. Good morning to you once again, and good morning to your cherished listeners. You know, traditionally, I'll say home ownership is something that we have to treat as very important in this country. Currently, just like most of us are very much aware, the housing deficit stands to about 1.8 million as of now. And then looking at a developing economy as compared to other developed economy, you realize that this is very, very high.
If I may come in, 1.8 million housing deficit.
Yes.
It means what?
1.8 million housing deficit. It means ordinarily that about 1.8 million people are unhoused or looking for housing opportunities or looking for avenues to own or be accommodated.
Unhoused?
In a proper way.
Meaning what?
1.8 million people are looking for avenues or opportunity to secure proper housing, decent housing for themselves.
It doesn't include the guys who sleep in front of the shops in Okanshi?
No. So they are all part of the people looking for decent accommodation to have.
So they're part of the 1.8 million?
Yes, they are.
But how many are we total in this country? 30 million. Let's say 30 million.
There are.
And so only 1.8 people know their house.
1.8 million.
That's not only.
As compared to other developed economies that are doing about, let's say, 700,000 or 800,000. Looking at our population and the ratio, the population as against the housing defect that we have, you realize that is very high.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's making sense. So yes, you say we have a huge housing deficit.
Yes.
So we need to take it seriously.
Definitely.
Great.
That's the starting point.
Okay.
So in the past, the trend has been for individuals looking to own a property to purchase a piece of land in a desired location and go through the hassle of building from scratch to completion. Obviously, this comes with a lot of twists and turns. But in recent times, we realize that estate developers will produce completed houses ready to be bought and occupied by desired homeowners. So this has been the trend now and the new wave. And both options are coming with their own merit and demerit. They are all coming with their own challenges and they are coming with their own upside. So that has been the trend in the housing space for now.
That's a good way to start. So now let's start a good lecture for my people to understand. I'm dividing my book into two, and I'm going to pick one here. Buy land, build yourself, and then go to real estate. So we have two ways of going about this, just as Eric just helped us with, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. Now, what are the pros and cons of both? Buy land as against going to the real estate guy.
Thank you very much for this question. You know, if you want to build yourself or if you want to buy an already completed housing unit, there are several advantages and disadvantages that comes with it.
I think we should discuss that.
First of all, in order to make a decision whether you want to buy a land and build as against buying a completed houses, there are certain critical factors that you may want to look at.
Okay.
One is preference. Preference being the design and your lifestyle. Two, budget. The initial cost, the maintenance, and the financing option that you are going to use. Three, timelines. When do you want to move into your property or the building you want to acquire? 4, specific needs, such as the purpose of the building. And 5, location. So these are 5 critical things that you may want to look at. If you permit me, I want to look at them sequentially. So preference, design, and lifestyle. Acquiring a land and building affords you the opportunity to get a customized or personalized design that reflects the individual's taste and style.
Okay, preference.
Yeah. On the other hand, buying an existing home offers less design flexibility, or it gives you a standardized design, which may not necessarily support your living, preference, or lifestyle.
Okay.
But also, let me make mention that buying an existing house provides convenience for immediate move-in.
Yeah, of course.
You get it. It provides you that convenience for an immediate move-in. And then you may be lucky to move into an already existing space that has all the amenities in place, i.e. water, electricity, good access to roads, and things like that.
Of the two, which is the more common in this country?
Of the two, because of certain factors and reasons, people are leaning more towards building
Their own.
Building their own
In their
from
own
scratch,
time.
at their own pace, their own time, as against buying from the estate developers. I mean, for obvious reasons.
If the
For
money
obvious-
matter.
Exactly, for
Okay.
obvious reasons. Just like I said, too, you have to look at your budget. How much do you have available to start your project from scratch? Bear in mind that you have to procure your land or purchase the land, and then the construction the construction cost will also unfold.
Okay.
So cost is also another major decision driver, whether to build from scratch or to buy an existing home. Oftentimes, building from scratch, even though it may come with its own challenges, just like I said, may help you to be able to save more eventually.
Okay, that's a good way to start. We're joined on the line by Nana Otu-Texan, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Real Estate Agency Council. We want to find out from him. Good morning, Nana Otu-Texan.
Good morning, Mr. Ham.
It's an honor to have you, boss.
It's an honor as well to link up with you again after all these years.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let me find out from you. We're having a conversation here on the real estate market where Mr. Eric Edwam of Walter Edwam is giving us some very good information about the pros and cons of buying land yourself, building, or going to the real estate person and purchasing it like you're buying orange on the street and then you move in straight up and all that. He's also told us about the housing deficit and all that. The Ghana Real Estate Agency Council, what was it set up to achieve?
So the Real Estate Agency Council was set up by an act of parliament to essentially regulate the real estate sector. What I term regulating the soft side of real estate, the transactional side of real estate, in terms of the players involved in the real estate sector, so the agents and the brokers. And the act spells out the kind of transactions that brings the person into the focus of the act. So essentially, it's a regulator of the players or the professional players in the real estate sector.
Okay, so it is not to do with putting up houses and all that. You're just managing the players. And so who are these players? I know
So
agents one.
Yes, so agents and brokers. But if you look at the definition in the act, we are covering anybody who is in the value chain. So your sole sellers who are selling property online. We are also looking at those who are managing property. We are looking at those who are building, the developers, because a lot of developers now actually are selling direct to the market. So as it were in other jurisdictions where developers build and pass it on to marketers, developers here or some developers have sought to sell direct to the market, and so they have to be regulated. Through that, of course, we would have some sort of say in terms of what they build and what they offer, the schemes that they put out there in terms of whether it's off-plan or if the units are built according to the contracts and all that. There's a whole food chain around, I guess, adding the interest of the public buying these properties or in those transactions, and also making sure that the developers or the brokers can also make a decent living.
Okay, that is well understood, sir. So, Nana, if I may find out from you, we'll come back to our two gentlemen in the studios. What is the current state of, home ownership in Ghana?
This is me speaking as a real estate professional and not necessarily as a chief executive of a real estate agency council. I think we skirt around the real issues of home ownership and accommodation in this country. When a Ghanaian wants to sell, they want to sell in dollars. When they want to buy, they want to buy in cedis. And we change our positions depending on where we are. Home ownership itself, as having been sold to us, I think is an oversold principle. We ought not to be pushing home ownership. We can also offer home rentals. In a lot of the Western countries that we tout, people don't start out from university going to buy houses. They start out from renting. So there also has to be a stock of rental housing that will get people to at least save over time to be able to buy. Then when we move from that conversation, we seem to be thinking that it is everybody's right to have a bungalow, to have their own land and have a fence around it. For whatever I've gone through my professional life, I live in a flat now, in an estate which was supposed to be affordable. But we are being told that as a people, we don't like flats. So you go into an affordable estate or you go into a developer's estate, and we are building sprawling acres of land just for houses and bungalows. But we are also saying we have a shortfall of 1.8 million housing deficit. So that person who says, oh, I can't get a house to buy, I can't get a place to live, I am now being convinced that that person says that he doesn't want to live in a flat because he wants a house. If we don't change, I think our problem is more of a paradigm shift. That government will come into these areas, and a lot of developers go into areas in the middle of nowhere and develop 100-acre lots of land. They expect governments to bring roads and everything right up to their doorstep. It doesn't happen. In the UK, you have the concept of Section 106 agreements where if you build, you would have to then contribute to the local authority to be able to build your infrastructure. So take an example. A plot which is 100 by 100 in cantonments, which was given out post-independence, had just a two-bedroom house. Somebody takes it over and then builds 100 units on that same property. The amount of footfall of car traffic on that same road has increased almost 300-fold. The water supply that's into that property has increased 200-fold. And this developer sells and pockets the money. And we expect government to come back and put in all the services and make everything happen. We must be ready to have the critical conversations about these things. And we should know that whether we like it or not, if you look at a single spine now, your average chief director in the ministry is earning what? 10,000 cedis, 12,000 cedis a month. They cannot afford, even they at their level, appear not to be able to afford the properties that we are offering. So it appears everything we are building is actually for a foreign market. It's not for Ghanaians. So until we start having the frank conversations about our offerings, the structure of the market, the income levels, we are just spinning ourselves. We are just having conferences and speeches and talks and all that. But practically, we will be having the same conversation 10 years from now.
Wow. That is a big bomb to start the conversation with. So back in the studios, Mr. Texan, if you can still be listening to us, we'll come back to you. Sure. Yes, I want to find out from Eric and then also Patrick what their initial thoughts are about what the chief executive of the Real Estate Agency Council just said.
Submission by Mr. Texan in relation to the fact that not everybody right from start can own a property. You have to go through a process, and then that process can involve rental, and then you save adequately to prepare yourself sufficiently to get on the path of home ownership.
Is this a culture issue? Because from what he's saying, Patrick, he's talking of paradigm shifts. Paradigm shifts means that it's something we've grown up with that we need to move away from.
We can say it's a culture issue, but I would say we have to evolve as a country.
Okay.
We have to actually see the bigger picture of getting people to start owning their own places, from a certain stage.
Okay.
But it's a process, like he said. It's a process that we have to understand and lay it down outright for everybody to actually toe that line.
Let me ask all three of you, because I'm trying to. My mind is working over. The SSNIT flat system, Mr. Texan, if you can hear us, the SSNIT flat system. How did it work? Were they owning it or they were renting it? Because I grew up not too far from a SSNIT flat, and I thought it is the kind of thing you are talking about now. What was the arrangement like? Were they owners or they were renting?
Okay, so I can say I live in a SSNIT flat of some sort. I do not. I guess they have different business models depending on where they are.
Okay.
Yes, they were sold up front, but again, I also have a bugbear with that. So these are supposed to be sold to people who cannot afford, who want to, to give them a break. So government comes in, or say SSNIT comes in, lays out the roads, everything. And in a particular example, I wouldn't name it, they were sold for 160,000. Today, those same flats are being flipped for 500, 600,000 cedis. Not a penny is going back to government coffers. So what is happening is that I buy it for 160,000. Whatever I do with it, sit tight and sell it for 600,000. But the 160,000 I paid for it is because government has put in, for instance, 100,000. If we don't have a mechanism to claw back, then we are just defeating ourselves. So government just puts in money, or SSNIT puts in money, affordable estate, reduces the price for people to buy, and people are actually buying entire blocks and then flipping them on or turning them into hotels or whatever they want. So
entire blocks?
Again, yes, entire blocks. And it's just what it is. The evidence is there for everybody to check if they want. But we, again, as a people, we tend to only do things critically when it benefits us. And that is why we would never have proper solutions that are long-term. SSNIT gives it to you. SSNIT ought to, like council houses in the UK, you may have a right to buy. But when you have a right to buy, and I think they have, like, if you sell a council house, if you buy a council house this year, you have up to 5 years to sit tight before you sell. If you sell it in the first year, you have to pay back 20% of the value of what the council gave to you. We are almost constantly throwing money as a country into these social housing developments, whether by SSNIT or, and I don't speak for every scheme, but just a few that I know. And we are not clawing back what we put in. So we have a certain fund that we can use to go into another development. It shouldn't be that I buy a flat for 200,000 and I sell it for 600,000 years down the line. The government or SSNIT or whoever is not clawing back part of that. So it means that we don't have any money now to go. We have to go and look for new funding to build a new lot. Because invariably, who are those who buy these flats? We will call them affordable. And frankly, that is, for me, it's a very loose term to use. Oh, it's affordable. Affordable to who? At what price? It is invariably those who are at the top level, of maybe middle to top level of the economy, who can afford these properties. So SSNIT, yes, in some instances, I think they've rented, but mostly they also don't want to carry that liability of rental management. And if you look at the history of why the UK or Margaret Thatcher decided to sell council houses in England, they found out that when you have public housing and people are living in it, they don't have the appetite to keep it repaired. They'd rather call the local council to come and fix it up, and every council estate was run down. So she came in with the idea that, look, let's sell these houses. Go to England now. Places that were previous council houses are now over-reformed. There are places that are commanding high prices because now people have bought, they feel the pride of place, the houses are their own, and therefore they are not allowing them to rot. So I support that. But we should have a transitional kind of phase. We should have, you don't just get into a council house and then buy it. You live in it for a number of years, and then that time gives you the ability to save money and all that, and then you can buy. And then the pride that you have in having bought your own property then carries you into the maintenance and the upkeep of the property. So again, it comes back to our paradigm shift. Of course, if the properties that we're giving, social housing, is on a big sprawling estate of 30 acres with roads. Go into any of our estates now. The roads are all going downhill. The rubbish, because we don't also put in place estate management policies. The agreements that we give people who buy our homes do not have obligations on them mostly to actually pay economic rates to keep the estate maintained. They expect SSNIT to keep the roads tarred, even though SSNIT has sold all the property. They expect SSNIT to still be taking the rubbish away, even though they bought these properties and they are, to all intents and purposes, owners of these properties and must take responsibility for themselves. So it is a big conversation that we have to have about this. A very difficult conversation, Frank, to be able to find solutions for the market.
Good to have some private players in the studio. So Walter Eduam Company Limited is actually one of them. And Eric Eduam is here. From your conversation, from what Mr. Texan is saying, government's role cannot be taken out of this conversation. How has because we've known of initiatives and affordable housing, his question, even the term affordable. As a private player in this field, why haven't you made houses affordable for me?
Jerry, I think this is not a question only for private players in the industry.
So I should ask government as well.
Most of the things that the private players in the industry do is regulated by the government. Private builders or developers don't control the prices of construction materials.
Here we go.
You get it. So if cement is being sold for 110, every developer will buy it for 110 Ghana cedis. We don't control the prices of cement. We don't control the prices of latrine. We don't control the prices of iron rod. As and when increments come, it affects everybody down the line. So I think there should be a broader conversation, just like Mr. Texan is saying, for us to critically assess and clamp down on all these things that we are going through as a country. So the private sector is also calling for help from the government and other institutions because we cannot do this alone.
Mm-hmm. Patrick.
Yeah, like my colleague is saying and like Mr. Texan is saying, it has to be a collaborative effort. It has to be something that we sit down around table, government and private, and look at it critically. And I would even say we have to bring the traditional people on board, because when we look at land economy and the way people purchase and acquire land, the kind of prices that are lingering out there, it's a lot to take. So the conversation has to be a broader one, something that all stakeholders will play a very vital part in trying to streamline it very well.
Mr. Texan, are there any support systems in place for first-time home buyers in Ghana, and how accessible are these?
I couldn't speak directly to them, but I know there are some, of course, some institutional stuff, also mortgages. But let me quickly get to a point. As a country, we appear to have just as Katangis, I wanted to give an expression, but let me stay clear of that since we are on air.
Yes, I beg.
We have opened ourselves to anybody to come in. So if you look at the profile of those who are buying properties in Ghana now, they are either Ghanaians abroad or non-Ghanaians. And then the few who are in Ghana who can afford it. So what is happening is that we are pricing, the market is actually exposed to people who don't live here. And it is only in Ghana that I know that somebody can come off the aircraft, maybe on a visitor's visa, 3 months visitor's visa. They have $10,000 in their pocket. That is assuming they are keeping to the limits that they have to carry legally. And they can just go and buy a piece of land and then walk away. It's only in Ghana that I know. So far as I am aware, there's no system that logs how many Singaporeans are buying land in Ghana, where they are buying it. In South America, you cannot even, some countries in South America, you cannot buy land as a foreigner or within 60 kilometers of the national boundary. I was amazed when I read it. But it makes sense, because if you allow a Burkinabe or a Togolese or an Ivorian to buy just on the border, well, invariably that land becomes that country's land, technically, because they can open the door the other way and it happens. Now, I say this because as a professional valuer, when you put any property out on the market and you say offer it for $100,000 and nobody buys, the seller would most likely have to drop their price because that is the market. What is happening here is that at $100,000, it is somebody's chicken feed in New York or in London. And so they would come and buy it. And that becomes the new evidence in the market. If I'm valuing any property again, I would say, well, the market would pay $100,000. That readily prices out any local in this market who is not earning dollars or in any case not having that amount of money. So we must also be very critical about how foreign inflows come. And I know as a country in the global south, we depend on a lot of these inflows, but we have to be very deliberate about how they come in and how they influence our pricing. Now what is happening in the market also is that you go to anybody's house and you want to value it or you want to put it on the market, they will tell you how much they want to sell it for. So our prices are increasingly just going all over the place, not being tracked. And again, this is why the government passed the Real Estate Agency Act. And hopefully over time, when we collect enough data, we should be able to actually make an informed decision as to what is actually happening. And that would then help us to actually tailor things for the Ghanaians. The reality now is, if even there was a mortgage CD denominated or whatever, if even the interest rate was 2%, the income that people, and I say on the single spine, the highest salary on the single spine now, I believe, is less than 12,000 Ghana cedis. That is the level of a chief director in the ministry. So what is the deputy director earning? What is the cleaner earning? And how can anybody convince me that allows them to be able to acquire property at the rates at which they are being sold? Somebody told me once, there was a CEO of one of these banking institutions who was asked, on your salary, are you able to afford the mortgage that you are selling? He said no. So that is the problem we have. If the CEO of that bank or commercial or the mortgage company on their salary cannot afford the mortgages that they are putting out there, who actually can? So it's a big, very serious conversation. And again, it involves government, it involves the private sector, and it involves us actually being true to ourselves, knowing that we have a problem and we need a solution.
Two things just popped up so far. It's just about 20 minutes to 9. Two big stuff I've written down in my notebook. One, we are wasting land. Two, we're selling to foreigners. And that is raising prices and creating a wrong impression. When I get to number 5, I'll come to solutions. Still, let's talk challenges. Eric and Patrick is in the studios. What are some of the challenges we've not touched on so far that people face when it comes to home ownership? We've spoken about wasting of land. We're building, what is this one? This is, yes, we're spreading this way rather than going up. Right, okay, and then also we're selling to foreigners. What other thing have we not touched?
Land litigations, even before you get to start your construction process. There's a whole lot you have to go through. So it's like, acquiring the land comes with its own challenges.
And this litigation challenge is facing both the one who said, I would go build on my own, and the other guy who said, I will go to the real estate, because the real estate guy will also go through the same litigation.
Exactly.
Okay, good. All right. Land litigation.
And even
what has been your experience, Eric?
Even before we come to that, even sometimes getting access to financing.
Okay, so we'll come to financing.
Yes, so that's even a major hurdle for you to cross. Even if you are trying to use the mortgage system, just like Mr. Texan rightly said, how many people are able to meet the minimum requirement to even qualify to be given mortgages to secure housing? So that's a major issue that we have to look at.
Interesting. The issues never end. Litigation. What role are the traditional leaders playing in exacerbating this challenge?
So like we were saying earlier on, some of these things has to be streamlined. You understand? Because there are families owning lands, there are individuals owning lands, there are, stools owning lands, and it comes with its own challenges here and there, depending on who is offering what. So then I'm sure you've heard of the stories of people buying multiple lands, multiple people buying a single piece of land. Mm-hmm. And this comes with a whole lot of challenges, because then it comes back to say the person who is offering more gets to take it.
Or the one who knows the chief.
Exactly.
So, Mr. Texan, please, does the Ghana Real Estate Agency Council, is there something you are going to do about this litigation and the traditional? Is it part of your mandate?
Okay, let me come to that, and I'll speak to the land issue, a different matter. So, the Real Estate Agency Council, obviously, as I've said, is going to regulate the soft side of real estate. We would make sure that if an agent or a broker, or we would attempt to make sure that if an agent or a broker sells you land, they themselves have done the due diligence before they pass it on to you. In which case, if anything happens, we would hold them liable and possibly withdraw their license. It will take time for us to get there, because as a people, we don't like firm and hard decisions. If anybody does any wrong and you try to punish, then everybody comes up trying to plead one way or the other. But we are going to get involved in the sense of actually making sure that if you're buying them, but what is happening as well is that a lot of us don't want to use professional services. So I have seen many agreements and stuff in my, law career conversations where you would ask yourself, why did you sign such an agreement? A lot of the times we see land, we see property, and it's almost like we're so much in a hurry to buy that we throw due diligence out of the door. And if you do that, you'll be found wanting. You would have to make sure that there are basic things that you have to do to check. Yes, it doesn't mean that the fraudsters are there, and they are always going to be ahead of the game. But you have to make sure that you also insulate yourself, and you do things that would actually safeguard your interests. When you do a search at Lands Commission, it is only based on the result, the previous registrations that Lands Commission has got. So if you go and do a search on Accra Sports Stadium, you might perhaps not find that anybody has registered it. It doesn't mean it doesn't belong to anybody. Because in places outside of here where the culture and tradition had been that they had paper titles hidden under their beds, they allow them to register those paper titles over time, and that is what builds their land registries. We have not had these paper titles. So it would have to take some time before these titles are collated and put together. But in terms of, I guess, insulating developers and the real estate fraternity from some of these things, the housing bill, which is before Parliament, actually looks at acquiring large tracts of land and then passing them on. Now, the advantage with that is those lands will be acquired compulsorily. And when they are acquired compulsorily, it actually freezes every interest. So they can acquire 10,000 acres somewhere in Adwoji. It freezes every interest in that land. Whoever so claims any interest in that land should go to court. Well, they would come to you, assuming they know you are the owner, and try and pay compensation. If you do not agree or you think the compensation is too low, then you can go to court at the right time through the compulsory acquisition process to actually make your claim and be paid. But what it means then is that on the date of the vesting, the land belongs to government and every interest is extinguished. Of course, sometimes because of our political dispensation, it's a bit difficult or to go out there and take land, and then it's the political fallout that has to be managed besides the professional work that can be done to actually make sure that the property belongs to state and can pass on. But if we get that process right, if we get the mix between political leadership, traditional leadership, and the law that gives us the right to compulsory acquire well, then government can get into the sector, buy these lands, insulate the developers from the risk of these litigations, and then that can be freed into the market for use. But again, if government should go through all these things to acquire those properties, I think government should have clawback clauses that developers who then get that property, having been insulated from the risk and cost of litigation and all that, should not just take it free and sell and pocket the profit. They should be, because the government needs money again to go and do the next scheme. And until we find this as something that we must continue to fund, we will do one wonderful scheme and it would end there. Because the government will then now have to go and find money from somewhere to come and buy the next scheme. But we must see every scheme as self-sustaining in terms of how much we put in as a country to buy it, who we give it to, who they sell it to, and how much they pay for the land in the end.
That's in itself, because Patrick was shaking his head, meaning that if government was going to interface between the private players and the traditional rulers who own the property so that the issues of litigation are solved. Patrick, I think, is in agreement. But Mr. Texon, whilst you're talking, something passed through one of your sentences, and I don't want to miss it going forward. You said something about licensing. Who are you licensing?
In terms of the Real Estate Agency Council?
You said something about licensing.
Yes, so we... Well, in relation to the Real Estate Agency Council, yes.
Exactly, yes.
We will be licensing agents and brokers.
Meaning, does that include Walter Edwam? Because
I would 100% think so, because I think he sells directly to members of the public. Let me get my act out and read out to you those that would have to be registered. One moment. So
okay.
That's under section 57 of the Real Estate Agency Act 2020. So any person who sells, exchanges, purchases, rents, or leases real estate, any person who lists or offers, attempts, or agrees to list any real estate, anybody who buys, offers to buy, sells, offers to sell, or otherwise deals in an option on real estate, anybody who advertises or is portrayed through conduct as engaged in the business of selling, exchanging, purchasing, renting, or leasing real estate, anybody who assists or directs in the procurement of prospectus, negotiation or completion of an agreement or transaction which results in the or is intended to result in the sale, exchange, purchase, leasing, or renting of real estate, or anybody who negotiates or offers, attempts, or agrees to negotiate a loan secured or to be secured by a mortgage or other encumbrance on real estate. So if you do any of these things, then you would have to
need
be
a
licensed
license
by the council. Yes, and if you don't get licensed, I would try my best in the first couple of years to get a couple of people jailed so that we can start, getting the system properly reset.
Okay. There's some laughter in the studio, so I wanted to calm them down first. So what you're saying is that the guys who sit in my junction, right, under the tree, who people come to, and then they'll take your moving fee, and they'll go and show you some houses. All those guys need a license.
Yes, they do. They can either register as a broker or an agent. And especially for those who sell properties, once we start licensing, you cannot register an interest with the Lands Commission unless we have issued a transaction certificate. So it is an option. And again, we would hope to offer incentives as well, where if you go and deal with a registered person, then if it goes pear-shaped, we will come in and assist you as best as we can. But if you decide to go underground and use somebody who is not regulated, then there's not much we can do. Because again, like the man who is standing under the tree near your house, if that person takes your deposit, 10,000 cedis or whatever amount, and you go there the next day and the man is not there, you have absolutely no way of tracing that person. And that 10,000 for most people is a lifelong saving. So this regulation is just to make sure that at least there is some certainty. It is not at all to run people aground. There are routes of entry that do not require you to be a lawyer or a professor or whatever. We are just making sure that we have a legion of professional people who would offer you professional service. The only people who should be scared of this regulation are the crooks. If you're not a crook and you're in this to do a good business, make a decent living, and you're not going to fleece the members of the public, then you're fine. And I would personally make sure you're fine. because the import or the need for regulation is because we have a market failure. It's because we have a lack of professionalism. It's because we have fraud. It's because prices are moving without any control. Also because of money laundering and a host of other things. So we are hoping that we as a country, seeing the importance of real estate or property in our lives, we would all live in a house at some point or the other. Even if we live on the street now, we may have lived in a house at some point. So it is important to all of us, and it is something that we must all get together to build together to make sure that we would all benefit from the advantages thereof.
Nana, and this is not only for property, including land. It means that Asafo Akyerima area to need a license.
If he is selling direct to the people, yes. But of course, he hasn't got to. He can just decide that I own 100 acres and give it to Nyame Adom, the brokers, to sell for him. But if he wants to directly interface with members of the public, then he can also be a client of a broker. So that broker then is the front office, like you have with the trusts that have been formed to manage some of these lands. Those trusts then would have to register so that we recognize them with an office and people can go there, and if there are any issues. And indeed, we are also hoping to assist them in terms of the documentation, because sometimes we sell the story as though it is only the sellers who are the frauds or the sellers who do these things and do double sales. Sometimes us, the buyers, are also crooks. So you tell them you bought their house, and then before they realize you sold it on to somebody. And so we are also going to protect them in this regulatory regime so that they themselves also have the trust to offer the properties that they offer to the market.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nana-Otu Texan. So back into the studios, Patrick Thompson and then Eric Edwam are here listening to the Chief Executive of the Real Estate Agency Council. Are you looking forward excitedly to await their coming into force?
I think the licensing, it's a win-win for everyone, because people are also waiting for some of these regulations just so that they can also stay compliant. So it's not only
protecting buyers.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I believe there are clauses in there that will protect everybody's interest at the end of the day. So it's a win-win for the industry and all the players involved.
That's good to know. Mr. Nana-Otu Texan, since you have to take leave of us, please, any final words on real estate, regulating real estate, which is the big thing on your website. I'm opening the Real Estate Agency Council. Big one. Regulating real estate, the only agency authorized by law to regulate professionals in the Ghana real estate sector. When is this thing going to kick in? And what are your final words before we take leave of you, sir?
Thank you very much, Mr. Ham. So we are hoping that on the 1st of November, we would start registering. At this point, we are getting assistance in place, and we are hoping that we would kind of start a pilot to make sure that, our forms and everything are in place, and then we would kind of go out in full force to try and register members of the public. I would say, just as a point of advice, that we would register individuals first, not companies, because the Act, even though we are supposed to regulate firms as well, every firm should have a designated person, and that designated person ought to qualify first. Agents as well, we would take registration for agents, but agents would have to be aligned or to be attached to a broker according to the law. And therefore, the primary focus would be to register the brokers initially. We would take any applications on behalf of agents, but firms will come in once the brokers have been qualified. And so I would want everybody to look forward to that. I would want them to wish as well, but then also to let them know that this is a task for all of us. It is not something for just the council or the government or for any individual. We must all strive to see this actually succeed, because it's going to be beneficial to all of us. My doors are always open. Our offices are in Cantonment near the American Embassy on 6th Link Close. Our website is there. You can send us an email on info@REAC, that is for realestateagencycouncil.gov. And if you do have any queries, we are more than happy to answer them. I guess hopefully before we launch formally, I would come before you and we can be more explicit as to the requirements and things that are needed. And I'm always open to have these conversations about real estate, the frank ones actually, because I think I'm a bit tired of the superficial conversations that keep spinning that takes us nowhere.
Thank you so much, Nana Otu-Texan, for joining us this morning. Have a great day, sir, and I'll be getting back to you. Then we'll talk Katanga issues behind the scenes.
Very important.
Very important. Charge.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. That's Mr. Nana Otu-Texan. So as maybe a full disclosure, he was my hall president when I was the hall secretary. So yes, it's a Katanga thing. Get used to it. Back in the studios. So we've heard from the chief executive of the Real Estate Agency Council. Let's come back to our conversation now. Now that what he's done for us is to set a good ground for us to continue our discussion. We've just under an hour to go. So Patrick Thompson is a project coordinator for Stage Limited is here, and then also Eric Edwam is he's a lead consultant and CEO of Water Edwam is here as well. We're continuing the conversation, home ownership. Based on what Nana Otu-Texan has said, now coming back into how any young man can begin or any young woman can begin to think of owning houses, does the future look bright? Yes, Patrick is pointing to you.
Yeah.
Do you have confidence now that in the next 10 years, state of home ownership in Ghana will change drastically?
I would say, as a Ghanaian, I would say the future is always bright.
Okay.
And looking at the plans that the agency is trying to put in place, getting the government on board to help regulate the industry, we have a brighter future. We just have to, like my colleague said, stay compliant, and everybody, stay under the umbrella of the agency to help the industry grow into the kind of industry we are looking at.
Interesting. Okay, so now...
So for me, I think this has been long coming.
Okay.
Even though Patrick is highly optimistic, I'm a bit indifferent because we've been waiting for this for a long time. And in the next 10 years, as to whether we'll be able to achieve the feat we want to achieve in relation to what we've discussed, I still think there's still a lot more for us to do. Because just like you said, the guy sitting under the tree next to your house, how are we even able to determine where they are? I mean, it will involve a lot of things to be able to bring all of these players under one umbrella. So it will be a yeoman's job for the Real Estate Council or the grader to be able to put all these things together.
Yeah, I mean,
but notwithstanding, I mean, we are ever ready to also help and assist and support them in this.
But this means that for us buyers, right, we then become very important in the conversation going forward. Because what you are saying is, any young lady who is looking for a house to rent, a room to rent, when she goes under that tree, she must actually ask for the guy's license.
Yes. That should be the practice.
Exactly.
Yes.
She must actually. So we are going to play a very important role. We, the buyers or the renters, we have a big role to play in ensuring that this licensing regime really works. Okay, so now back to our home ownership. We are going side by side. Now let's pick one after the other, the things he spoke about. Why are we wasting land? Why are we building? This one is lateral?
Yeah.
Yes.
Instead of
vertical.
Vertical, yeah.
Why are we going this way instead of up?
You see, Jerry, the first thing I would say is that just like we know, people think professionalism is expensive. So a lot of homeowners or people, prospective homeowners, instead of going to the professionals to be able to do the right designs for them based on their land, location, everything, they want to go to the roadside person who probably knows how to draft for the person to do designs for them. And then they will just go ahead and build without even consulting an architect, a quantity surveyor, a structural engineer. Now everybody in Ghana is a builder. But bear in mind, people go to school to study these courses. Courses are taught in our universities. People do building technology, people do architecture. They are experts in these areas. they can advise you. They can be able to help you maximize the use of your land. It's always funny when people come to us and they'll say, oh, I saw this design somewhere. I want to replicate the same. That has been the trend.
What's wrong with that?
You see, the downside is that no two buildings are the same. No two projects, even though the buildings may look alike, are the same, because there are certain factors that come into play for you to even determine the depth of the foundation, how it should go. You need your geotech report. You need a lot of reports to be able to determine the depth of the foundation. But people will come and then they will say, okay, so I saw this somewhere, replicate the same thing for me. Sometimes it could even be over-designed.
Yes.
Certain columns or certain structural elements you may have on the building may not necessarily be doing anything. And then you are paying so much money, and at the end of the day, you say building in Ghana is very expensive because you have eliminated the essential factor of engaging the right professionals. So professionalism is key. Don't think engaging the professional. People think, okay, when I go to an architect, he's going to charge me an arm and a leg. But they will save you cost at the end of the day. When you go to a certified contractor, he will save you cost at the end of the day. We have seen buildings that individuals did themselves, and then they'll still come back to us to go and remedy the damages that they'll be experiencing in their building. So I'm using your platform to advise that it's essential. I know cost is key when it comes to home ownership, but you cannot get it wrong when you have engaged the right professionals.
You cannot get it wrong when you've engaged the right professionals. What about accusation too that it's always better to go buy land and build a thing yourself because the real estate people are using inferior materials so that they're able to make a lot more money. They use cheap products, and after 1 year, the thing has cracked and all that. What about that accusation? This goes to the two of you, now that the two of us are in the same room.
You know, Jerry, I wouldn't say entirely so for all developers. There are certain developers that are very, very mindful of their integrity.
Okay.
So it's not all developers that are doing that, I must say for a fact. But on the flip side, you could get other developers, because of the margins they want to slap on the cost of the building, they may want to use inferior materials just to be able to...
More sand than cement.
Exactly.
Yes. That's what...
Exactly. So that is also happening. I have seen a building or a project that somebody bought, and then they had to pull out all the wiring and rewire.
Oh,
yes.
whoa.
You can imagine paying so much for a 3-bedroom house, and then it's not functional. You switch on a light here, and then another goes off.
Outside.
You see, so people have all these experiences, and they have to rewire the whole building.
Oh, wow.
And these could be very costly.
The other accusation is that you are not also building for our environment, and that you're building houses, and that the reason why houses are actually expensive is that if you considered our environment and considered our local materials, houses might be cheaper than what they are now. How do we respond to that?
I wouldn't say yes or no to it, but I'll say, like my colleague said, it has to do with a lot of factors, and we have to be blunt when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Now, if we are saying a house is expensive because it was built by the real estate company, or a house is less expensive because it was built by the owner himself, I don't think that is right. There are so many factors that come into play when it comes to that. Now, let me say with a real estate company, they will have to, do a lot of these professional engagement before they go ahead and then get the projects done. Okay. Whereas
the wayside
guy would not, waste time going to do all these kind of professional engagements before getting the work done. So then you see that the cost element would definitely be different.
Okay. Still on that very challenge.
Yes.
Why hasn't bamboo replaced iron rods? Patrick is laughing.
Gradually we are shifting towards using eco-friendly materials. Unlike before.
Okay.
Now we are using fiber reinforcement as against the traditional iron rod.
Okay.
In terms of weight, it's lighter in terms of weight, and it does almost the same thing, if not more, than what the traditional iron rods are doing. Now people are advocating for clay bricks or bent
I was going to
bricks.
come there. I was going to come to clay bricks.
There are a lot of projects around that. Gradually, you see us using that for the partitioning.
Okay.
So gradually, I think we are shifting or moving towards using eco-friendly materials and equipment.
And this would affect final price?
Yes,
Yes,
to some
of course,
extent.
to
This
some
should be
extent,
able
yeah.
to affect the final prices of buildings and properties.
Okay. And then they say you also don't advise as well. So we build houses that needs more air conditions than they actually need, and that if the architect had drawn it well, more air will come inside,
So
more
that
light.
is where the problem comes
where the
in.
problem-
Okay.
Usually, if an architect does a design and is lacking some of these things, then you have to check the certification of the architect, because they go through a lot of models and schemes to be able to come up with your design.
Okay.
They know the ventilation that is coming in, the ventilation that should go out. So if you have a design like that and then it doesn't follow some of these standards, then you should question the source you took it to. A lot of people will tell you they went to certified architects or quantity surveyors or contractors, but they may be lying. Because professionals that are protecting their professional integrity is key to them. They will not design and eliminate all these things. The design process takes a while. You go through value engineering exercise where the client will come, you say, oh, I saw this. They will take you through that whole process. So at the end of the day, the working drawings that are produced is something that is functional, something that stands the test of time. So let's question people when they come and they will say, oh, the architect, people are quick to say, oh, the contractor did this, the architect did, what did they also do? Let's start questioning that as well.
Interesting. Okay, so now the houses are built, they are sitting there, high rises and all that. Every day in the newspapers, they are all there. You are selling to foreigners? Or is it because it's business? You must sell. Whether the guy comes, you won't ask whether he's a foreigner, where are you coming from, what country? Yes,
Jerry, you've put up a project.
Yeah.
Probably you
borrowed money from
investors to-
somewhere.
Exactly. And then somebody comes and he has
the money
the
in a
cash
rubber
to
bag.
be able to purchase. Would you turn the person back
Oh,
and
you
say
go
that
sell
I
them.
want to sell to locals alone?
You go sell them.
Exactly. So let's see how best we can regulate the space and regulate the market.
You know, when we try to regulate it, everybody is forced in line. So then I'll say, i.e., you will not have a problem with maybe a foreigner coming to buy if you are reliably informed about the source of funds and the kind of business the person does and everything. You know you are in good standing when it comes to whatever regulation is guiding you doing your business.
Wow. I mean, I can understand the challenge that you're facing, because for you, the money is gone into the land, it must come. So you wouldn't be, and this is where government comes in.
Yes.
I mean, they should ensure that the right people come in there to do, but it is what it is. Okay, so moving ahead now, a young man said, I want to build. A young woman said, I want to build. What will be the steps that he should take? What are the challenges they should envisage? Let's give them a free consultancy today. He wants to build himself.
Okay, so you want to build yourself. First of all, you have to identify the kind of project or building you want.
Okay.
Check your lifestyle. Check what works for you. Check the financing avenue to be able to fund your project. Are you self-financing or you are going to take a mortgage? So check all these things and then approach the right professional to come up with a design for you. If you're a young person and you want to build for yourself, you can probably start with maybe a 2-bedroom house, expandable. So when you engage the right professional, they can advise you that they will design the building such that you can get 2-bedroom and then you can expand as your family size increases, or as your source of funding your project, you're able to get more money to be able to fund the project. All these conversations should be had. People will start building and they will outrightly want to build a 5-bedroom house. Unadvisedly, they go with no advice, because just like I said, they've seen a design somewhere, they want to replicate same. They'll just go with 5 bedrooms and then they are stuck. They can't continue. We see a lot of projects in town that started like that, and then for years, it cannot be continued. So make sure that
I'm quiet because
okay.
this is the second time I'm hearing this advice.
Okay.
That when you start on, your first house shouldn't necessarily be your dream house.
No.
Ideally.
Go for what you can afford.
Definitely. Just so that you don't spend a lot of time during the construction process. Because bear in mind that whilst you are building, you may probably be paying rent as well.
Exactly. You are.
So you are paying rent and then you are funding your project. That's if you are self-financing. And then it can become too much. You know how our terrain is. And the prices of materials, it keeps increasing. So it's appropriate for you to save, get enough money so that, for instance, when you are casting concrete or doing concrete works, you are able to afford to finish that whole process.
Okay.
So it helps you with proper planning. So just go for what you'll be able to finance in good time, move in, and then you can expand as you progress.
So he's chosen a place he can afford. She's chosen a place she can afford. But it's way out of town. That's what she could afford. Behind there somewhere, like close to Winneba level. I mean, the guy is in Accra. You still think he should build, or he should just consider renting in Accra till what? I mean, or he should buy the land and keep it there for a while, and then when he's, when development acts gotten that close, then he can go there. What would you tell such a person?
Yes, so my advice to that person, you see, when it comes to construction, I keep telling a lot of people, it's not just enough to say I've purchased the land somewhere. There are a lot of considerations that should be done. Because somebody buying a land way out of town and then spending so much to build, and at the end of the day, you are plagued or challenged with moving even to get to where you work, it can be very disturbing.
Yeah.
So look at the full life cycle cost of the project. It's not the initial cost of the project alone where you spend X amount to put up the building. How much are you going to spend in maintaining that building? How much fuel do you need to commute to where you work on weekly basis?
You must calculate all this.
You have to. That's the full cost of the project, not the initial cost of building the house. How much time are you going to spend in transit? If your work demands that you get in early, will you be able to wake up at 4 a.m. and commute to work? That means you are doing maybe 2 or 3 hours just driving to work, and the same 2 or 3 hours driving back. And that can cost you so much. You look at the social impact of that. Will you be able to have or spend time with your kids? Probably by the time you move for work, they are already asleep. By the time you come back home, they are sleeping again. So you look at the full cost. You don't just look at the initial cost of the building itself. And then you can make an informed decision. Okay, getting a land, let's say at Budumburam, somewhere is costing me, let's say X amount, let's say 50,000 Ghana cedis. You can relax a bit, save a bit more, get about 70,000. That's just an example I'm making.
Yeah.
And get a land a bit closer. That will save you all this wahala.
Interesting. It's more like a consultancy. Like I keep saying, Z in the morning is an educational experience, not just a morning show. We're here to give you the very, very best of information so that you understand the things that are going on around you. How are you, as private developers, how do you handle the chieftaincy issue and the selling one land to 10 people? Patrick is an expert in that area. He deals with them.
It's a big challenge. And for us as Stage, we do the lay down procedure by going to the Lands Commission, doing a check, and then making sure that the ownership is as they say it is. Then we come back and do a proper negotiation with the money aspect. Now,
okay,
there are a few challenges where you might go through all this process and at the end of the day, still come to find that there was another buyer somewhere. That is when sometimes we say the real estate companies are charging more than that. No, they are not. When the land is prime and they really want it, they might have to, go the extra mile and then deal with all these issues. Compensate somebody somewhere, whether the person bought it or not, since it's being declared that, this person also owns this property. You will have to deal with it. and then come and deal with your clients as well.
And that makes the land a lot more expensive.
Exactly.
The property expensive as well.
So it's the terrain and how we find our situation in our country.
You don't carry like one schnapp and then one pickup, give it to the chief and then collect that thing.
No.
But you've heard of that one.
Yes.
Or you've seen people do that.
Of course. It's traditional. When you are going, there are certain things you have to accompany yourself with.
So the car is for you then. Knee will throw a stone. And then where the stone lands,
that's where
all the land is for you. Interesting.
But you see, Jerry, I'll be quick to add that in these transactions or negotiations, don't be quick to part with money.
Okay.
Get the right professional, seek legal advice, let them have the sales and purchase agreement. I mean, stagger the payments such that even if there are issues, you'll be able to salvage some money.
Okay.
So don't be quick to do this on your own thinking. They are promising you a juicy land. They're giving you 1 acre somewhere and you are all excited about it. No.
And then you go and throw money in.
Make sure you are using the right people. Go through the right process. At the end of the day, I'm hinting much more on this point because at the end of the day, having worked around, it saves you more eventually. So professionalism is key. Get the right people. Let them do the negotiations for you. Stagger the payment. Don't part with money instantly. And even start your construction and see what will happen before you even make your final payment. Yes.
Before anybody comes and then...
exactly.
In fact, when you go on the land is when the issues will start coming
exactly.
up. Great.
Exactly. There has been the issue of landguardism, in the
it doesn't change though.
It hasn't. So it comes with its own...
The only difference is that because the lands are getting finished now, they come for digging fee. And then they come for lintel fee.
Exactly.
Oh, now they are doing lintel fee as well. I know of digging fee, but not lintel fee.
They've done digging fee, lintel fee.
And then roofing fee.
Roofing fee. And then, because that one is getting finished, now they are doing walling fee.
Oh.
Yeah, when you're doing wall, the boys must chop. So, but that is the system, and we're making it as practical as possible so that those who want to go in. Now, let's go to a bigger conversation. Is Accra overchoked?
I would say so.
It is.
I would say so. I mean, when you travel around, you realize that it's decentralized. Decentralization is key. So if our infrastructures, if our systems and institutions are decentralized, you won't have a lot of influx of people into Accra. They can stay in Cape Coast and transact. They don't have to come all the way to Accra to visit maybe an institution because they are not in Cape Coast.
Would technology help? The way we're going with digitization and all
of course,
it will.
Technology plays an important role. Digitalization plays an important role in all this. So if we're able to enhance technology, it will also help to make sure that Accra is freed. And then I've been a firm advocate of us trying to establish regional offices of institutions in some of the other regions, not only Accra.
It's getting interesting. I know you have comments to make. 0544321019, 0544321019. There is a thought you wanted to share. If you could help me with that, Eric. For instance, if the person now has gone through all that.
Yes.
What about materials? Now let's talk about the material space. He's dealt with a chief. Yes. First of all, he's listened to your advice. He's gotten a place. It's the distance and all that. He's looked at his social lives. Now he needs materials.
Yes.
Where does he start?
Okay. So it also starts with the professionals again. Get a quantity surveyor to give you a material schedule. Yes. So you see, the problem is that we don't even understand what our professionals are there to do. Don't just get a regular person to say,
but they told him that this guy can build.
That is not enough.
That is not enough.
You see, there will always be cost overrun. Get a professional, a quantity surveyor to give you a material schedule. And his estimate will be very approximate. He will tell you need 100 bags of cement, and be rest assured the bags of cement you need will fall within that range.
Plus or minus, yes.
Plus or minus just maybe 5 or 6. Because he understands the ratio that they are doing. Maybe 1:2:4.
Okay.
You will get an ordinary person on the street. Oh, boss, and then my 100 bags of cement. You'll be working and they will call you. Oh, we need 50 bags of cement more. And you are wondering, I budgeted or I planned for 100 bags. Now they are asking for 50 more bags. So get a professional quantity surveyor to give you your material schedule and then prepare yourself adequately. Look at where you source your materials from. Okay. And I will also encourage bulk purchasing. When you are doing bulk purchasing, you'll be able to negotiate a bit more for very good rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will encourage also buying from trusted suppliers.
Okay.
So you shouldn't just see a number by the wall somewhere and say, oh, laterite or cement, and then you call, oh, can you supply me 50 bags of cement? No. Buy from trusted suppliers and then do bulk purchasing so that you can get good rate for some of your materials.
Sure by the time we're done with this conversation, we would have discouraged so many people from wanting to go this thing solo. They would want to go and deal with one real estate company and go to bed because all that you're saying, I mean, and this is a guy who is working 8 to 5 Monday to Friday.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When is he going to get time to do all these?
Exactly.
So it's always better to
engage the professionals.
Hey, people. Okay, so now he's engaged, but where would you get the very best when it comes to workers? Foreman and mason, because now I'm told they come together. A foreman has his own masons he uses and all that. He's going to deal with these guys as well. Mm-hmm. Hey, people. All of a sudden, it looks like
they have to.
The area of you trying to build, you leading the charge, you need a lot of money because some will go wayside, and then you also need a lot of time.
Yes. You see, you can structure it such that even though you are building for yourself, but you have good professionals around you to guide you.
Okay.
I'm not talking you out of not building and going to the estate developers to buy already completed. What I'm trying to let you understand is that you can build yourself, but make sure you are getting the right advice because you can't do it on your own. Because that's not your field or your expertise. So get the right people to give you the right advice so that you can make the right decisions and save. Because with the right information, the right decision made, you'll be able to save money on your project.
Yeah, because if I go through all that Eric and yourself are taking me through, by the time I'm done, I'll be a real estate guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
You will have the practical experience.
Yeah. I'll go and set up my own real estate. Yes. Just to help others go through that. Yeah, because it looks burdensome.
Yes.
And if you're not careful, I mean, okay, so he's building, he's doing it apart from the land guards and everything. Then comes a big question that has taken over real estate conversations in this country for a while. That our neighbors from the sub-region are better in certain things than us. In tiling and
POPC. This is common knowledge.
Yeah, so tell me why this is so and why we are where we are. Why is this so?
You see, personally, having worked with a lot of casuals and laborers, you realize that these guys are hardworking as compared to some of our artisans and people we have here. Truth be told.
Oh, Charlie.
When you give them an assignment or task, because their mindset is to come into work and earn something at the end of the day, they approach it differently as compared to some of our local artisans here. You realize that the level of finishing or detailing
says that
is a bit more better. But I must be quick to add that gradually our artisans are also learning.
They're picking up.
Yeah, they are picking up. So if you want to help our local gangs or teams here, what we do is that we make sure we have a blend of some of these people and then our local people, just so that they can pick up on some of the things that they are slacking behind. So gradually our local people are also picking up.
Are they cheaper?
I wouldn't say they are cheaper, but when you are looking for a certain standard or a certain quality finish, you would lean towards them more. Now, I would say in my experience, I would say our people don't take time to finish learning the craft before stepping out to say, I can do this or I can do that. So then, you can see the difference with these guys who are coming from our neighboring countries, who have taken time to learn the craft before saying, I'm going on an exodus to go and find jobs on
Is it an issue of apprenticeship working there better than it works here? Or there is a certain mass in terms of their creativity and skill that
there's a mindset to it as well. Like Eric said, there's a mindset to it. They set their mind to actually master the craft before going to look for the money.
Okay. Ours are not like that.
Technically not.
Okay, that's interesting. So he's acquired the land, he's gone through that, he built, and now someone said we should find out about investing in real estate. Is real estate a viable long-term strategy for business growth? Is this something a person should want to go in, real estate? Should I go into real estate if I have money?
To have money, yes.
Is it a business I should do?
If you have the professional background, it's a business you should venture into.
Okay. But I can't just come and invest and let people do it for me.
I mean, people do that.
Of course.
If you have the money,
you can source
invest.
for the professionals,
Yes.
and then, get them to, come together as a team, and then you can just push the agenda of, getting into.
Interesting. It's fast approaching the 9:30, meaning that we have less than 25 minutes to go. It's always a big conversation around a big topic and looking for big solutions. Today we've been looking at real estate. We are looking at real estate and the issues surrounding it. We've been able to speak to the Chief Executive of the Real Estate Agency Council, Nana Otu Texan. He's laid the grounds for us to continue this conversation. It's getting interesting by the minute. Eric Edwam is the CEO and lead consultant of Walter Edwam Limited. And then Patrick Thompson is a project coordinator for Stage Limited, and we are talking navigating a journey to home ownership in Ghana, challenges, opportunities, and practical solutions. That's why I'm bringing very practical issues that are popping up, because it is in our synopsis that we must make it as practical as possible. Now let's talk affordable housing. Is it possible?
This question: How affordable is the
affordable that they are talking about?
You see, just like Mr. Texan said, how affordable is the affordable that we are talking about? At the end of the day, it's the people in the middle and upper class that are even able to afford some of these properties
on a tight budget.
You put up a 2-bedroom house, putting it out there that it's affordable, and then it's being sold for, let's say, about $45,000 or $50,000. How many people will be able to pay that amount?
Why are we pricing in dollars?
That's also another conversation for another day. You see, we earn in cedis, we trade in cedis, but then all these things are priced in dollars. So you pay the cedi equivalent, and look at the current rate of the dollar to cedi.
Seniors, I beg, help me out here. 2-bedroom house, self-contained, like we call it. How much should it cost if it is within the outskirts of Accra? Let's take Accra out.
Are you talking about the construction cost alone, or
the finished product?
Or somebody want to buy
finished
the
product?
Finished product.
Yes.
So I will not be able to determine the markup of another developer.
Here we go.
Yes.
You see, because somebody can build and slap about 50 or 60% markup on it to hike the price. But ordinarily,
depending on the location.
Definitely.
Let's not talk East Legon.
Definitely.
Let's leave these areas and go. Let's go to Kaswa.
Yes. So ordinarily, your construction cost for a standard 2-bedroom house shouldn't be more than between 250 to 300,000 Ghana cedis. Yes.
250 to 300,000 Ghana cedis.
250 to 300,000 Ghana.
Why is Patrick?
No, I'm trying to ask my senior colleague, are you adding the land cost and everything?
The land cost.
The land cost is
yes. So the land cost and then the cost of construction, everything.
300K.
We probably might have to move away from Kaswa a bit.
And get where?
And go maybe get into after Budumbram.
Why?
Where are we going? Akoti Junction or
yes,
Winneba,
because
or what?
we are being realistic here.
Yes.
Land over there now it's costing more than
one plot,
half of that budget we are putting down.
one plot of land in Kaswa
Yes.
will be more than 100,000.
Exactly. So then realistically,
You see, but ordinarily 300,000 cedi should
be adequate to get you something like that.
But this will be way beyond Kaswa.
Exactly.
Yes.
On this stretch, on the Adenta stretch, to take you where? Because that place, in fact, it looks like the further you go, the more expensive it even becomes. If you go to Adenta stretch, the Ibri area,
Yeah.
you are bigger trouble. And if you went towards the water side, you are also getting to places that are very expensive.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I chose the central side. I mean, if you're on this stretch,
No, but I mean, if you are building for yourself a standard 2-bedroom, you've been able to
300K.
negotiate and get litigation free land, and then you are building. It shouldn't cost you more than 300K.
So 300K, we settle on 2 bedrooms, 300K.
Yes.
Now, what
with
would
no
we,
fanciful finishes? I mean,
No,
something
yes.
basic,
Standard.
standard. Yeah, I should be able to.
So therefore, if 300K becomes standard, what would we define as affordable? Affordable should be what, 100,000?
No, so it depends on the bedrooms, right? Whether it's 2 bed,
2 bedrooms.
3 bed,
We're using
whether
2 bedrooms.
We are using 2
bedrooms.
detached,
bedrooms.
semi-detached unit. All these factors has to be considered to be able to come up with a price.
So this 300K is not like affordable housing.
This is affordable.
This is affordable
Yeah, because
housing.
this is the actual construction cost.
Okay.
Unless, of course, you are getting materials elsewhere that will help you price very lower. But realistically, if you are buying cement at the prevailing price, trying to use very not so fanciful finishes, regular doors, regular windows, tiling, they should be it.
And maybe have a street parking, I think the dynamics are a lot.
Would Walter Edmond be able to do affordable housing?
Definitely. We should be
What
able to do
should
that.
what should happen for you to be able to do affordable housing? Which is what, 300K?
Yes. So first of all, if it's mass unit that we are producing, repeating the same design, so the designs are not changing, so you are not incurring extra cost. So just if you are doing mass production will help you do your bulk purchases. Just like I said, you'll be able to get good rates from some of your suppliers, and even sometimes payment plan on some of the materials.
Okay.
You should be able to use some of these approaches or mediums to be able to come up with some of these units in an affordable manner.
Okay, so affordable, is it possible? And we're talking big figures here. 300K, let's assume this is what the final offer is. And you're saying that based on this, we can call this affordable. Mr. Texas said chief directors or something are earning 10, let's say 15K.
15,000.
Is a private player like you able to give staggered payment?
Yes. So sometimes we have payment plan where you can pay a deposit and pay the rest over a period. Sometimes 6 months, 1 year, the maximum 18 months.
What a discussion for this morning. I mean, the questions are coming in. You want to send yours as well, please do. It's getting interesting. We're looking at real estate, home ownership in Ghana. We'll look at an event which is supposed to be coming up, an expo. Sure. Right? We'll talk about the expo, maybe 10 minutes to time. We'll be talking about the expo just so that people understand what it is seeking to achieve and all that. What is the role of associations and all that in helping home ownership in Ghana? And with associations, I'm talking in mind Greda. What roles is an organization like yours necessarily part of Greda, or what? I mean, what role do they play in helping this in the industry?
You see, we are, just like I mentioned, even though I'm the CEO of my company, I'm also a chartered quantity surveyor. So I'm a member of Ghana Institution of Surveyors. That's why I've been very, very, very much key.
Going for professionals.
Professionals, exactly. Just like my senior colleague said, Mr. Texan, he also said he's a professional valuer, who I believe also joins the Ghana Institution of Surveyors. Exactly. So there are experienced people that can actually guide you through the whole process. We have the Ghana Institution of Architects. We have very experienced people that can guide you. And some of these people, when they are coming on board with that collaborative effort, we should be able to champion the cost of affordable housing. Sometimes the challenge is that the right professionals are not even engaged when conversations like these are happening.
Okay.
Policy makers make all the decisions and even sometimes the technical decisions, which they may not even have expertise in.
So what happens to the technocrats?
Exactly. That's the question we should be asking. So when we are able to bring all of them on a round table, we should be able to make some gains to move where our prices are in terms of affordable houses a bit lower. So the technocrats are there. We have all these professionals and experts. When we start consulting them, and it's not only policymakers making all these decisions, we should be able gradually be shifting towards affordability as against what we have currently now.
As against what we have currently now. And if it's materials that are making the things expensive, we're also looking at, you are saying that gradually people are looking at some of the materials we have in the system.
Yes.
And how that will be able to help us. That is very important. Now, there is an expo coming up. Are you aware? Okay, I'm going to show you something about the expo. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that expo as well, where the whole concept is to put together a discussion on it. Now, before we go into that discussion, a bank recently came out and said they have the lowest mortgage in the country and all that. They will remain unnamed. But I want to find out from you, how has the financial industry helped in this conversation we're having? Patrick just like he smiled or something as if, why you be asking? They've not done anything. I don't know. I'm not preempting. What role has banks, especially, and other financial institutions, non-banking financial institutions, played in the real estate conversation for you?
I think, some of them took up the challenge to, help, get new homeowners and then, help people achieve their dreams of owning homes. But the economic challenge, the exchange rate,
ouch, here we go,
has not really helped. I have a few colleagues who, went for mortgages and they are not able to pay. I don't think it's a fault of the financial institution, but it's a bigger conversation that has to be had.
Wow. And when something like this happens, practically what happens to the house?
No, sometimes when you're not able to pay,
a house is foreclosed in this country.
Yeah, foreclosure, yes.
Foreclosure.
And
In Ghana.
repossession, yes. A repossession, yes.
Oh wow.
Yes.
I mean, I thought foreclosures is a foreign word.
No, it's happening here.
It's
So
an
when you are
industry
going
word.
for a mortgage, make sure that you have a steady income to support your repayment.
Exactly.
That's very, very essential. Make sure you have a steady payment, a steady job to be able to support your repayment. I think the mortgage institutions, they've done well. But just like he's saying, it's not their fault either, because they have also taken monies and then they are giving it to you. And at the end of the day, they expect you to pay and pay the interest. And there's not much sometimes they can do. And until recently, most of the mortgages were dollarized. But recently we have CD mortgage, and then you have to pay an interest of, let's say, between 20 to 30%, which is a bit high. But there again, you can't blame them. So if you are going for a mortgage, make sure that you have
a steady income
to be able to support your repayment over the period. It could be 10 years, 12, 15, depending on the period or the tenor that the loan is for. So that's one of the things I will say.
Okay. Someone said I should find out what you make of like organizations that have unions and all that going into real estate. Is that a better way as compared to the two we are talking about, which is one, buy land, build on your own; two, go to a real estate company and buy outright? They are saying that, what about unions that also help their members acquire this? Have you experienced any like that?
Yeah, I think that's very good, and it's something that is really coming up. Some will form unions and then they can get a vast land.
Yes.
They will buy, and because they have the financial muscle, because it's a lot of people coming together, and they have that authority, depending on whichever agency or institution, they will be able to also avoid and control this issue of double sales. So the unions, when they come together, they are able to also help their members to be able to get litigation-free land. And then even when there are issues, they'll be able to fight more as against somebody who is doing this all by himself.
So if we are to sort of like put it in a table form or whatever, or list it, it looks like the most dangerous is you stepping out and say, I'm going this solo.
Without doing your homework well.
Oh, you are saying that it is risky, but if you do your homework well, it's not as dangerous as
you can navigate through.
The topic for today was actually navigating the
yes.
So get good advice, you can go solo. Join others, risk becomes lower. But on top of all of this, there's a third one, which is walk into a real estate company, buy a house.
Yes. So just like I said, because you see, people, depending on your circumstance, depending on the things that you are doing, people may not have the luxury of time to go and now buy a land and use 6 or 8 or even 1 year to build. So depending on your circumstances, if the finances is available, you can just approach a credible estate developer and then you can buy from the person.
Credible estate developer.
People are selling off plan. Estate developers are selling off plan, which is also another good approach. It helps you to be part of the construction process.
Off plan meaning what?
They have the plan and then you start making payments towards
okay, before they even dig the ground.
Yes.
Okay.
Or probably they would have gotten to a certain stage and then you are in there, you are involved, you can go there
so
when
that
you are
one
not
you
working
can
over the weekend, go and inspect the building. Sometimes even contribute to whatever finishes that they will bring in. Or maybe you want this particular kind of finish, you want this paint, you want this. You can contribute to that and then you can get a very good building from the estate developers as well.
Do we have any chance of going bust like something's happened in the US? Is it because their credit was solid? So a lot of houses were bought on credit. But we don't have that. So we are cash and carry.
Yeah.
Yes.
The house you get when you come buy them.
Come buy them.
Interesting discussion. It's still a real estate conversation around a big conversation called the Z Roundtable. We have less than about 10 minutes to go. And I want to find out from my honorable real estate gurus in the studio what they see in the future and what we can do about it. 10 years from today, what do you think is going to be happening in real estate in Ghana?
You see, 10 years from today, I've been preaching digitalization as well. So 10 years from today, people should be able to sit anywhere in the world and then they should be able to get access to properties that they want to buy. They don't even have to go through another person or a third party to even see what is happening on their project. If they are in the diaspora, if they are building, and then they need to see certain things, they should be able to see it in real time with the aid of digitalization and AI. So AI is big in the real estate industry, and that is something that we should be able to promote, just so that people will be very comfortable investing in our country and also buying properties and buildings from our country. When we are able to get that investor confidence, properties are likely to be sold a bit cheaper.
Okay.
2, I've seen a trend where gradually, just like I said, professionals are getting a bit more involved in the space. Even though it's still difficult, we'll get to a point in time where the quality, when the grader is coming on board and all these stakeholders are coming on board, if you are producing substandard buildings, you'll be kicked out of the market. You cannot thrive in the market because now when you see the level of construction, the complexity and the architecture that we are experiencing, and gradually we are shifting towards a stage where if you are producing substandard, you'll not be able to thrive in the market.
Substandard won't be able to thrive.
No.
Interesting. Patrick, anything you want to see going forward in this country?
So going forward, like our senior colleague said on the line, if the space is regularized very well, streamlined very well, you see that those who didn't even mean to be in the space will just fall off, and then you keep those who have the know-how, the technical ability, and then you can get some of these financial muscles also coming in to support, to help us achieve, this affordable housing that we are all dreaming of having.
Home ownership was a discussion we're not yet done. I wanted to find out. Mr. Texan spoke about deregulating what he calls the softer side. If the soft side is going to be the hard side. The hard side, it definitely has a lot of training that goes in there. You go to school for 7 years and things like that. Walk from the hall to lectures with some big board, some long boards and something carries some big black stuff. See my roommates running up and down and all that. That we can be sure will stay. Tech would always be there helping out, and other schools and all that. The softer side, who trains them? When I'm talking of softer side, because he's talking of licensing agents and all that. What should or what goes into the training of somebody who would be a good real estate agent? Or is there a course on that or something? Is there a real estate
we have real estate management in tech, land economy before, so they deal with.
There's real estate management.
Yes, it used to be land economy, but I hear now there's a split, so they deal with all those.
Okay, that's why I was asking that question.
There is.
There's a whole training
there's a whole training you can go through.
Okay.
Yes.
That will make the licensing easier now.
Yes.
I mean, because then they can make it such a way that when you're passing out,
of course,
then you become a member of this. Okay, so Walter Edwom. Now let's end with Walter Edwom. What is next? What are you up to now? What are you into? And then what are the big plans?
Okay, so currently we have some projects around, and then
where?
Come again?
Where?
Oyarifa. Where you be?
So you be expensive. Oyarifa or you be expensive.
And some we are selling off plan.
Okay.
So we are encouraging people to come.
Who do you target? Because that's a question I wanted to find out. But real estate players like yours, do you? I mean, you're not for everybody.
From the middle to high end.
Who qualifies as middle? How much you earn at the end of the month? I want to know if I did inside.
No, I mean, I can't be able to.
I want to know if I did inside.
Oh, no, you did inside. I can't be able to. You did inside. But I can't put a figure to it.
How much the person earns a month?
I can't put a figure to it. But I should say you did inside.
Yeah. I'm sure.
You should be able to afford some of our houses.
Now, if you went beyond that, now you see, I'm going to ask questions that are personal to me, and sometimes my producer will say, "This one I'm going off script." Why are hilly areas more expensive?
Why are hilly areas more expensive?
No, it gives you the view. You know when you go
you're not.
Why are views expensive?
That has been I'll say, the aesthetics of having a very nice view when you walk out of your house is priceless.
Let me tell you why I'm asking this guy. So there is this, how many floors? 6 or 7 floors, high rise in my community. Yes. And so one time I meet this owner and we're having a discussion. I said, how much are these things going for? So this one is 1,500 or something. And as it was going up, it
keeps increasing.
I was like, I thought it was more inconveniencing to be up. Then so view.
The view.
Oh wow! So that's it.
Yeah, and there's also the aspect of the difficulties in working in those areas as well.
Oh, I never considered that.
Yes.
Like if you're moving materials out there,
that contributes to the cost.
Okay. Seriously, this is the first time. This is the first time I'm actually thinking in that line, because I thought, I mean, if you don't have a lift in the building and then all that, you should actually reduce the cost. But he said the view is why. Okay, so in rounding up, I see a lot of high rises popping up in Accra, all over the place. And studio apartments, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. I mean, all that. Who is occupying these properties?
So I'll say,
are they all sold out?
Not all of them.
Wow.
Not all of them. It like we're all talking about, the locations is being sold. So there'll be a studio apartment, on the hilly side of town, which is so expensive than getting a studio apartment or even a 1-bed
in Accra.
In Accra.
Oh, okay. people are doing good business in that direction.
Yes. So it's not all of them that are sold out, no.
Should we move the commercial capital from the administrative capital? Last question.
I've been a firm advocate for that. I've been a firm advocate.
I would say yes, we should, because gradually it's getting so choked that it might get out of control. So
now we're talking.
Yeah, decentralization should be another topic that we should champion as a people.
Ghana at 57, when will be Ghana 2057, when Ghana will be 100, which I'm told is 30 something years away or whatever it is. I'm thinking by then we should have the administrative. I don't know what Accra will be, whether it will remain the commercial or the administrative, but I think we should separate because it has a big part to play in this real estate conversation. It has a huge part.
It does.
And I recall Professor Anda of blessed memory, Tech, and he had done a solid paper on what we should look out for. Any government that decides to take one of the capitals away, any government that decides to look out for this. I remember there's a good source of water. He had given it.
I think he's a planner. He did planning.
Yeah, he was VC or something. Around the time. And I have always asked when that is going to happen because I'm yet to see it in any document, any manifesto.
Let's hope that will be sooner than later.
Let's hope it will be sooner than later.
Yeah, because like you said, things will get out of control. Yeah, because very soon, what is also going to happen is that old houses are all going to go away, and then probably high rises start picking up. Anyway, when you have a burgeoning middle income population, not middle level, I could say that. He doesn't want to give me the figure, but when the middle class, when they begin to grow and become a big mass, sometimes their taste might even change. And they would understand some of these. Live upstairs, there's nothing wrong with it and all that. The only problem with living upstairs is that probably your mom, who is old, might not visit.
There will be elevators. So, when you come to Stage will actually give you a proper outline consultancy advice as to which way you should go.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll help you navigate through some of these things very easily.
Thank you so much. Patrick Thompson is a project coordinator for Stage Limited. Eric Edwam is from Walter Edwam, and they've been in the studios this morning. We've been having a conversation around real estate. You know, Fridays are like that, big conversation. Sometimes you need to get to the very bottom of it before they leave. Any final words before you leave us in terms of home ownership?
So Jerry, it's our expectation that we'll be able to bridge the gap of the housing deficit in this country.
1.8 million.
1.8 million currently. It's our expectation that we'll be able to. I mean, the state housing company is doing so much now, but we are hoping that they will do better. And let's see how the government and stakeholders and individuals can collectively come together to be able to solve this problem. Because at the end of the day, Ghana is all that we have, and we should be able to provide decent housing and accommodation for everybody in this country. So as a private developer, we are also contributing our quota to make sure we solve this menace that we are currently facing. So if you need any professional service, don't hesitate to call us. I don't know if I'm allowed to put our numbers out.
The marketing guys will be waiting with an invoice. Yeah, they're always standing by the door.
They don't hesitate.
But yes, the name is Walter Edwam, and then Stage Limited. Thank you so much for coming through. It's been a pleasure having you for this discussion. Gentlemen, ladies, it's a few minutes to the top of the hour. Coming up at 10 a.m. is the news. Right after that comes NYA, the brand, bringing you the brighter side. She's mid-morning's finest. You don't want to touch your dial. It's been a long week, long conversations, interesting ones from Monday all the way to today. What else can I say? As always, pray like it only depends on God, but please, when you work like it only depends on you. My name is Jerry Ham. I'll be back next week, God willing.